Hello and welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Video, and today I am taking you through my updated Dragoon Orcust build. Yeah, we've finally got Red Eye's Dark Dragoon in the TCG, and it's about time we incorporate this into an Orcust deck. Now, I've had a few issues with how Orcust has been functioning recently. I think the biggest problem is the number of bricks, and adding in Dragoon into the deck. Yeah, that's 3 more bricks on top of your already minimum like 4 or 5. So this build is designed to try and alleviate some of the risk in having those cards that you just normally you wouldn't want to draw in your opening hand. With this build, a lot of those, it's no longer an issue if you draw them. And anything else that's been added in to impact that, I'll explain through why it's actually fine, and we're sort of comboing off with, you know, sort of brick hands. You can still end on very impressive boards. So I think that's why I really like this variation of Orcust. And we're going to break it down in terms of the roles of the different cards. So we'll kick things off with the starter cards. So obviously we have a Triple Gearsu, the most important, most impactful card for this deck in a very, very long time. Gearsu being able to play through an Ash Blossom is always really nice. Plus, if you open this on top of some of your other combos, then you get put into a really good spot as well. So absolutely, definitely a must-have 3 of for this version of the deck. Then we have 2 Jet Synchron. I'm not playing a third in this build, although you do have the option to play the third if you want to. I don't think it's perfectly necessary, but if you do want to boost the consistency just a tad, you can play the third copy. But we are playing 3 copies of Tuning. The main advantage of Tuning over Jet Synchron is that it's both a starter and an extender, because it can also search for your quick draw, which we'll see down the line. And then there's also a copy of 1-for-1 to round off the starter lineup. So 9 cards that are your like generic starters. Each of these is 1.5 cards to combo. The combo that you get off this into your Jet is just so powerful that it's worth the fact that you're going to have to discard the additional cards. And then obviously Gearsu is the most like resource saving version of the combo. And obviously with 1-for-1 it doesn't really matter if you discard in this deck. That's one of the beautiful things about Orcust. So then we'll get on to the extenders. So the generic extenders are the Quick Draw Synchron, which you can pretty much always allow you to extend. And 1 Foolish Burial, of course, gets you into your Nightmare when you don't have a play into it already. And then Monster Reborn. So these are like, at any point these will be live extenders. Now if you open your Jet combo, then and your Fibrax gets negated, a lot of people just have to stop there because they don't have a way of combating the hand trap, especially like a Vela or a Gamma even can be really problematic. But if you do see a copy of Orcust Nightmare in your opening hand and use this to discard to bring back the Jet, then this is actually an easy way to extend through the hand trap. So I very much consider Orcust Nightmare to be an extender for this version of the deck where you're playing the Jet Synchron combo as your main play. Even if you open the Gearsu, this still is an additional body that you can actually bring out, which is really nice. And then the aspect of the deck that you've probably seen from the intro is a little bit more unusual, is we're actually playing triple quick launch. So again, I wanted things where if my Halki Fibrax, which is like the main play of this deck, does get hand trapped, this actually allows you to pop off regardless, and you can get into your Orcust plays and your negate plays depending on how you want to play. You can set up like Dragoon IP with your like full Nightmare resolved, so I think this is like really nice to allow you to keep going even in very, very dire looking situations. The deck still struggles a little bit through Gamma, but these 6 really, really help you to get into a much better position. And I've actually opted to play these over like the danger cards for a number of reasons. First of all, this allows you to use the Nightmare that you've equipped and get it off the field, which is really important. None of the dangers actually let you do that when your Fibrax gets negated. So you actually had to either have a level 1 tuner, which could have been Lamia, for example, but the board that you make with Lamia without this, it just seems way less interesting and I think Quick Launch is just a better card, to be honest. So that's for the extenders. Then we will go on to, let's do the engine requirements, shall we say. So these are like engine requirements that are pseudo bricks. So if you see them in your opening hand, they're not actually bad, they're still playable, but it takes a little bit more effort to get them into a good position. So obviously there's the Symbol Skeleton, which with any extender is a Galatea, so it's basically, you know, full combo. The same thing can be said for Brass Bombard, but the same thing cannot be said for Wand. The advantage of Wand is that if your combo gets hand trapped on the Nightmare, then you still extend. So this is like a pseudo extender in a sense, and these are pseudo starters, even though they're all technically terrible to draw. Then after that we have the one Rocket Tracer, which you have to play for the Quick Launch version of the deck. This is, again, it's like a pseudo brick because you can use it with a spell, a face-up spell or trap, or another extender to actually go into a play, which is really nice because you can just go into like a Savage or something. So and it only limits you to darks, which is generally not a problem because, hey, this deck plays a lot of darks anyway. And then the one card which I keep seeing people cutting, which it really bugs me, is Orcust Crescendo. Again, it is an engine requirement. You have to play one of these at least in the deck, so that you have that negate available. But it is also a pseudo starter, so if this does get discarded for any of your plays, and you're fine with being limited to Dark Machines, then you can start using this again, which is really nice. And you can just set it, and if it gets destroyed, then again you still have additional ways to play. So I really think Crescendo gets underrated because people just aren't using it to go into like a Girsu play, which is absolutely something that should be approached with in mind. Even playing Foolish Bearer of Goods to send this is still a viable play because it gives you, you know, like a Dengirsu end board, which is really strong, and I think is super underrated in that respect. So definitely something to consider. Then we get on to the proper bricks. So these cards are all just terrible to draw. There's the one Rocket Recharger to go with the Tracer. You need the level 4, and this is the best of the level 4 options. 2100 defense is fine, but the most important thing is if your Dark Monster gets destroyed, whether that's by battle or by card effect, you get to bring back a different Dark Monster, so that's really cool. Then the one Babel, it doesn't search for any of your engine pieces, unlike Crescendo, unfortunately, and opening it is fine if you have a Galatea play, because then essentially you're getting a free resource off your Galatea beyond what you would normally have, but it is one of these cards that just sticks in your hand and doesn't do anything otherwise. And then, of course, we have the full Red Eyes Fusion package, where these two are bad in your opening hand in that they are blank cards, essentially, and this is bad in your opening hand because you want to be able to Anaconda your opponent at some point. One important thing to mention about this deck is you generally don't want to end on Dragoon turn 1 unless you baited a lot of hand traps first, and then assume that the Dragoon is going to beat whatever's left. Generally, you actually want your Dragoon for your turn 3 play, so that you can break the opposing board and win from there. So that's kind of how this is functioning in the deck. But these are the like 5 absolute worst cards to see in your opening hand. And then after that, we have 15? 12 disrupts. Or it should be 12. So triple Ghost Ogre is not going to surprise anyone. It's a super impactful hand trap at the moment. One of my favorites, to be honest, for the current meta. So definitely one worth playing. Triple Imperm, again, you know, it's pretty much staple at this point to run Imperm and Nibiru and stuff. But this deck doesn't actually run Nibiru. You kind of want to keep your board presence a little bit more. I could have put in Effect Failures or something to give me more options to go into Fibrax, but because there aren't very many extenders that don't give you tuners, it didn't seem like it was necessary. However, for the remaining disrupts, we have Triple Ghost Reaper. So your extra deck is like stacked with pretty much everything that your opponent would ever want to access out of their extra deck. So this is like a really, really nice option to stop your opponent from getting to Halki Fibrax, stop your opponent from getting to Dragoon. Anything that you perceive to be a threat from the extra deck, you should be able to get rid of with this card. And because you can interrupt your opponent's combos like that and your board presence is generally fairly small, this puts in so much more work than something like Nibiru, where your opponent can just summon a Herald beforehand and bait it, or bait you into Nibiruing them early. If you banish something with Ghost Reaper, it's gone. If you Nibiru a board, your opponent probably has a play through it, especially if they're playing like Rocket or Infernoble even. They should still have options there. And then what should be the last 3 disrupts, but I only have 2 available, is Forbidden Droplet. This is one of the few decks where I would recommend playing in the main deck. The discarding is really important, and because you do run, these sort of pseudo bricks that become viable once they're in the graveyard. So definitely one to keep in mind, and I think Droplet is super good in this deck and really underrated in the format, so definitely give it a shot. And of course it's a 40 card deck, so 1 Upstart Goblin in Ultra. And that's it for the main deck. So I think it was 9 starters, roughly the same number of extenders, slightly more defensive cards, and then that smallish number of bricks and semi-bricks. It's certainly smaller than playing the Scrap Engine, and I'm not playing the Scrap Engine in this deck because I don't want to lose to just like 1 Imperm all the time. So the advantage of the way that this deck is built is quite a lot of it is extenders. Like even Tuning can be an extender, which is nice. So for the extra deck, we've got 2 Dingirsu and 2 Galatea. We're not playing any Longirsu. Partly it's because I don't have any ultis of it. I don't even think it was printed in ulti, so not worth playing. But mainly it's because the extra deck is pretty tight now that you've got Dragoon in there. There is one sort of flex spot which we'll come on to in a bit, but I really like the way that it's been populated, so I don't think you need the Longirsu for it, to be honest. And then you got your various combo pieces, so Linkuriboh is necessary for all of the combos in this deck. If your opponent Reapers your Linkuriboh, you're going to really struggle actually, because you can make Galatea sometimes and Dingirsu sometimes, but it can be a bit tricky from there. 1 Linkaros, 1 Fibrax, 1 Union Carrier, 1 IP, 1 Verte for the Dragoon play, 1 Unicorn. This is a pseudo flex spot because you could change what you're going to IP into. And then 1 Zeraboros. Again, this is a pseudo flex spot. I think these are the optimal of the available choices, so that's why those are in here at the moment. That's it for the Link and Xyz monsters. If we then move on to the Synchros, we have 1 Marcher and no Heralds here, but 1 Borreload Savage Dragon. I'll show you. If you're interested in any of the combos of this deck, let me know in the comments section. I might do one of those like long, roughly an hour combo videos to show you all of the important stuff from this deck, like how these 2 actually come up in play and how you play through various hand traps. But there are actually multiple ways into Savage from this deck. So I really, really like this in the extra. There's a play that goes like Savage Dragoon. I think that's through a hand trap as well. There are other plays where you go like IP Savage, or there's lots of other variations, and I really like Savage in this deck because it's dark, it's accessible off the Tracer, and it's accessible off a few other lines as well. And then of course the final boss monster for the extra deck is the 1 Red Eyes Dragoon, finally available to the TCG, and putting in a lot of work, mostly as a seg for going second. That's why there's no access code talker here. The extra deck is sort of stacked so much, where you have OTK options available through all of these guys. So I don't think you need to play an access code on top of that or a Boral Sword for this particular build. But if you feel like it is necessary, you could potentially change something in here. I think as I say, the slots that you could potentially change would be Nightmare Savage. Zeraboros can potentially change for something, and if you're going to take out Dragoon, you can take out both of those. I'm pretty sure everything else here is important for playing through various combos. The Union Carrier is necessary for playing through different hand traps. So if you don't mind playing into hand traps, you can maybe take that out. But these are your sort of like bits and pieces that you can play around with and change your ratios for. I really like this lineup. If I'm going to play a non-Dragoon variant, obviously take these out, take out the cards in the main deck and try and find some more starter cards maybe, or some more extenders potentially you could put in the dangers there in the main deck. But that is it for the main and extra deck. I'm not going to go through a side deck here because it is obviously super important. that you line up with whatever is going on in your local area. In some places, Ash Blossom is really important. In some places, Nibiru is really important. It will change depending on what your local scene is like. So this has been the Orcust Dragoon deck profile. If you do want to see the combo video, give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments section. If we get it, I think we'll set a target of 50 likes on this video, then we'll do the combo video to go alongside this, just so I can gauge your interest there. And of course, there will be polls and stuff up on the channel as well. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.